Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
People go through a lot of challenges every single day. And part of those challenges can be the belief that you have that you don't have the strength to go through different things, or you're not good enough. And many of us, we don't want to admit that, but we do feel that way. And it could be not good enough for a relationship, your job. How many times do you hear the term quiet imposter, or somebody just kind of phoning it in, but feels that they don't really know the job? Maybe you do, but you think you don't. Big challenge in a lot of our lives. We're going to dig into that today. She's a spiritual life coach, also works with hypnotherapy, and the founder of Getaways. And she's here with us once again. Rhea Maceris joins us on the program. Welcome back, Rhea. How are you doing?
Doing great, Steve. Thank you. I'm glad we're finally able to talk.
Yeah. And as I mentioned just a second ago, and I paused when I was about to say hypnotherapy, because I had a flash in my mind. I've gone through it and it was so impactful. And I'll be, as always, fully transparent. Had that belief, not good enough. And I can even trace it back. I knew where it came from when I worked before we met with a hypnotherapist, where those beliefs came from. And it was a couple of different areas, but it all centered on the same thing. And what does that mean? Now your self-confidence drops down, when you have that situation. Is that what you encounter when you talk with people?
That is one of many of the results of it. It depends on where their mindset is. Oftentimes it can show up as they're a failure in relationships, on their job, like you mentioned, in any arena, because of our human cyclical dysfunction. Our parents have had challenges passed on to them, et cetera, et cetera. So we each are, that I believe, trying to do our best. However, when we have that underlying unconscious belief, it's almost the perfect ingredient or dynamic to self-sabotage. So
100%.
So when we're able to find that and just admit, it takes courage, right? It takes honesty, it takes transparency to admit that we have that underlying belief and it's not the truth. It's very painful and sad when you're carrying that around and you don't understand why things just aren't happening, relationships aren't happening, etc. So I facilitate a safe space to unravel that idea and help a person, guide a person, if you will, to find more of the truth of who they are. Because that's not our truth. I believe we are amazingly radiant, powerful beings. And if that underlying experience keeps popping up, then it's confirmation. Oh, see, maybe I am not good enough. Maybe I am not worthy, when situations show that dynamic into our face, right? So I help them navigate more of their truth.
I feel that people don't realize how impactful it can be once they figure it out or they heal from it. It's a game changer. It's like the door opened and the sun was shining through. It's like, and things you don't even realize when you figured it out and your confidence level boosts up a little bit. Let's say in your job, just saying we'll just center on a job right now. You find that dealing even with clients, let's say you have a sales position. If you're always thinking, I'm not good enough, they're going to cancel on me, it's going to happen again, it's going to happen again. It's probably going to happen because they're picking up on your energy. They're feeling it, and the lack of confidence that even though you may look like you got it all down, and you're suffering from that I'm not good enough syndrome, we'll call it that. They're picking up on it. So a lot of times you will start losing accounts and things will happen like that. But when you figure it out, I'm sure you heard these stories many times from people when it's like, oh my God, my life has changed. I didn't think it was going to be that easy.
Exactly. And I love that you can understand the dynamic because you experienced that yourself. Yeah. So I'm curious how you found that out, that underlying idea.
Yeah, I knew where it came from because I was the fat kid who got bullied. And that was straight through elementary school into junior high, into the beginning of high school. So there was that was that. Divorce of parents when I was very, very young. So a lot of times you internalize that as it could be your fault. And that was just
Sure.
my assumption on that. Um, and my dad wasn't as supportive as I believe and maybe he didn't have the tools at that time,
Hmm.
when I got bullied, instead of
Hmm.
supporting me, and great guy, but the support was he bought me a punching bag so I could defend myself. So it's take a combination of all those things, put them all together, and that's where that limiting belief came from. But I can say this: I am truly convinced that if I figured this out many years ago, I would be way more even advanced than I am now. And
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
uh, yeah,
Yes.
and I even
Yes.
think back in my 20s, like all the opportunities that were there, and I was like, well, I guess I'll do it. No, man,
Yes.
pound right through and let's go. But you
And
can't.
that's a common response that I get from clients. I wish I would have known this sooner. Well, the way I look at it, at least they're finding out now,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know?
And I think we've said before, don't shit on yourself. I should have.
Yeah.
Just let it
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You're here now,
Yes.
live in the now. But I just share
Yes.
that with others. Like, if you're in a different part of your life, maybe you could be moving forward faster once you figure it out with somebody's help like yourself.
And that's what makes me feel so honored that I get to help people find that suddenly they have this new shine in their eye, or they walk differently, or they're walking with more confidence because they literally are realizing that's not who I was, that's not who I am any longer. So it's almost as if they're given like a second chance. You can even call it a rebirthing if you want, to be more living from what their truths are rather than what they were carrying around from their childhood. Our childhood foundation is so important,
Hmm.
and that's part of the human experience, right? So when
Yeah.
they find that new possibility, so basically, like I mentioned last time, Steve, essentially I'm helping people look at themselves through new eyes and look at their life through new eyes to be able to shift into more of the truth of who they are, and create their dreams and the life they wish for.
Yeah. It's um it's an eye opener and it feels like it's almost like a cliche, but you feel like a whole new you
Yes,
once
absolutely.
and like the chains come
Reimagine
off.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
only better. The chains come off and you actually like yourself
Yes.
or
That's
more. You
that's
like
the
yourself more.
ultimate. To
Yeah.
like yourself or even love yourself. I mean,
Mm,
even that is kind of cliche as well, but there's a lot of power in that, in learning
mm,
to really appreciate the person that we are each day. And that's part of
yeah.
my guidance, my personal plan that I create for people.
Well, unfortunately, in our society, saying those two words, love yourself, comes with guilt. People feel guilty to say, well, I love myself because it's sometimes viewed as look at her ego, look at his ego. But no,
Exactly.
it's needed and it's healthy. What's the starting point when somebody feels that they're limited and they have these thoughts or they feel that they're just not good enough? How does it start?
So basically, great question. So I would offer a free consultation call with them. It's generally around 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how deep we go into the conversation. And then based upon the information that is shared, I create a personalized plan for them. And so this can be virtual, or if you're going to be in the Sedona area, I do 3 or 4 day retreats. Actually, some of them are on the land, some are in my home office. It's all personalized, and that's the beauty of it because we are all individual beings. We all have our own areas and our wounds and our own issues, and so that's why I believe it's so important to create something that is personal for that person and their experience. And
How
I
about
also report it's not all around being very serious either. If we do a personal program here in Sedona, I actually have creativity and fun, and it's lightening up too. It's not all about seriousness, which is a fun element to it that I love.
Oh, who doesn't like a retreat? Who doesn't like a getaway? I was going to say no to
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Because it doesn't feel like work
yes,
in that
yes.
situation. How about some stories or one situation that stands out in your mind, Rhea, when you worked with somebody and you took them from here to there and what they shared with you?
Oh, wow, that's a great one. So a woman from California came in and she had a job that she appreciated. However, she had this underlying idea, not good enough, not good enough. And she really wanted to reach out to another possibility, which would have taken her into more of a supervising situation. So we basically designed, we did a lot of the inner work, looking at and connecting with her inner wisdom, and did a lot of work on self-talk and how she even talked to herself in the inner world.
Hmm.
And she and she found out about this other position that she really wanted to get. So with the help of myself, we manifested this job for her by literally she's starting to imagine that she was there, imagining herself in that position, and she got the job. And she started calling me Rhea the magician.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
uh,
that's one of many.
tell me about the talk to yourself aspect.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting question, because even sometimes when I'll venture into that idea, they go, "What?" And clients kind of give me this funny look. What do you mean talk to myself? However, we are constantly talking to ourselves inwardly, our inner dialogue. You can call it the inner critic, you can call it the negative ego if you want. That's just part of the human experience. And interestingly, when I ask someone, part of the process is I'll ask someone to literally take an entire day and write down things that you tell yourself throughout the day, and bring your awareness, because you need to have your awareness on it, right?
Hmm.
So when they start focusing on that, rather than what is everybody else thinking or doing, what's the world saying, the latest fashion, etc., they're focusing on themselves, which is a wonderful experience in themselves. And oftentimes they will come back and they will
Yeah.
say, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea I was literally talking so negatively to myself. I would not talk to an animal like that." And they're animal lovers. "I would not talk to anyone like that." And so that's part of the opening up and the realization, like, yes, there is a lot going on internally, and you're the only one thinking in there. So therefore, you're the only one that can change it to more positive, to more loving, to more kindness. Just imagine what you want from the world. You want to be loved and appreciated and respected, right? So that's the same dynamic I offer and guide and teach people to treat themselves with that same type of appreciation.
Wow. That brings a quick thought in that we all worry about what everybody else thinks.
Way too much.
Way too much.
And
Yeah.
we talk about that a lot, trust me. It's
Mm,
wasted energy, you know? It's a total waste of time and energy for people that you may never see again. And why does it really even matter? You know?
yeah, exactly. Where you run out to the store, the pharmacy, whatever, and you're wearing pajama bottoms, whatever it might be, thinking that
Yeah.
somebody's going to see you. Like, I'm not going to see him again. Who really cares? And if you run into somebody, just tell them your story. Hey, listen, I just ran out and feel like changing. How you been? It's okay. We're all
You know,
human.
and that's kind of the irony too, because to take it back to even to your childhood, Steve, when you were bullied, and I'm sorry to hear that, that's painful. So what happens when you are bullied, your natural tendency to survive is to take your focus out here. Where's Johnny? Where's that guy? Where's the guy that's going to bully me? And so we take our awareness outside of ourselves. So that's another part of the process is, okay, let's bring that back in here and start focusing on what you're telling yourself. What is your body telling you? What are you telling yourself? So even that is a process in working with them and bringing their awareness back to themselves.
Oh,
So I
it's
love that you
amazing.
brought that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the impact that it can have on someone. To your point, seventh and eighth grade, George Mashkow was his name. How do you,
Where's George? What's George doing? You've got to be on the lookout, right?
oh, and he also used to beat up on me and my friend Mike Harrison. So when we would come down the stairwell, we would both be looking for each other. You see him, I see him. All right, clear. We're good.
Yes.
We're good. Yeah.
Yes.
And you live your life in fear. And that was
Yes.
then. Then go back to elementary school and just, the visual of just walking on the playground by yourself because, if you're bullied, you're the fat kid. They don't hang out with you and all of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what we said before, if you could go back to your younger self and tell yourself something, mine
Yes.
would be just what we said before. Don't think about what people think. Who cares? And I tell my kids that. Don't even think why are you worried about that? Don't. It means
Yeah.
nothing. It means
Yes.
nothing.
Yes. Yeah. It's true. Very
Mm.
true.
Is your work primarily or in the most part hypnotherapy when you uncover those limiting beliefs?
Well, that is certainly the easiest way to access them. However, there's a variety of techniques that I use. One is a very interesting, powerful dynamic where it is hypnotherapy, but it's going into your inner circle. And we have all these different parts of us. They talk about this in psychology that play a part in who we are, forming our whole. And
Mm.
so this inner journey allows the person to actually meet those different parts, and they show up in different places in the circle, and they actually talk and they merge and they come to agreements. And so that's a really powerful dynamic in finding more of the truth of who they are as well.
Every situation is different. Everybody is different.
Yes.
If somebody came to you and said, I feel like I'm not good enough. In my relationships, my marriage, my job, just life in general, on an average, how long does it take for somebody to have that realization, what was going on, and then to move past it? Again, broad average. What
Yeah, really, really good question. Because sometimes it can happen within a 2-hour session.
I believe it.
It honestly can. If someone comes in, and it's interesting because it's almost as if the more how do I want to say it? The more pain or the more heartache that they're in, the more open that they are, the
Mm,
more that they are ready and willing, and they'll just almost like, okay, I'm ready. I need this. So that can happen within 2 hours.
wow.
However, to get really last, it's almost like that can be like a temporary fix. However, to have long-term shifting and changing, I prefer to work with people on a longer period of time. Like I have retreats that
Hmm.
I create for that are 3 months long, and we'll meet once a week or 6 months, depending on the situation. I had one client I worked with for 4 years. So again, that's
Wow.
where that personal piece comes into play, as you mentioned.
So my visual of that is you're the doctor. You're not, but you're the doctor, and you've diagnosed the situation. Um, we know what it is, but it's going to take time for it to heal. So some surgery might be needed. Again, I'm giving an
Yes,
analogy here,
sure,
but
sure.
for you to work on it, it's not like, all right, come in, I'll give you an injection. You're going to be good. It's going to take time, but uncovering the layers, like you said, could be a couple of hours. And at least, I mean, talk about the progress made just in that, where you
Yes,
realize, I call it connecting the dots from, your childhood, whenever to now. It's like, oh,
yes,
that's why. Okay, well, now we got to fix the now.
yes.
Hmm.
Well, and that brings in the idea of neuroplasticity, which the scientists have proven that our brains are constantly being rewired.
Yeah.
So, with that analogy and that information, that's why the working for a longer period of time is very beneficial, because we're recreating the ideas over and over again. And I actually give them experiences and things to do at home between the times that we meet. So we're literally rewiring the brain to go to more positive, to more loving, to more kind, whatever that intention is in the moment, to more gratitude.
Hmm. It's almost like painting a wall. You start with a lighter color. You want to go darker, put the one color on. You could still see the other coming through. More coat, another coat, another coat. And now we're good.
Yes.
And it takes
Yes.
time. Wow.
Yeah.
What's your website and how does it all start? Free consultation?
Yes, free consultation. There's a button on my website. My website is Imagine Getaways, plural. That's getaways.com. Or also they can text me at 928-204-0878, and we'll set up time to talk and see if it's a good fit.
Love it. Lived it. If anybody has any of those thoughts where you feel like you're not good enough, you just feel like there's something holding you back, but you can't put your finger on it.
Yes.
And you know it. You feel just out of sorts. Inside of you, you could be doing this over here, but you're doing this over here, and you can't figure out why. Let them come to you and figure out why, because there's a reason. There's a reason. Just got to find it, uncover it. And you're like the detective working on somebody trying to figure that out and do.
I wear many hats.
Yeah, that's awesome. Rhea, great talking with you.
Yeah, good to see you again.
You too. And so relatable. And again, right back to the beginning, I would even put some money down on the table in a bet that all of us think we're not good enough in some capacity or aspect. I don't think you can get around it.
It's part of the experience. And the sooner you can realize that and have the courage and power to change yourself, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time.
Well, you know what? There you go. You just said it. Have the courage to admit it, that,
yes.
You could have the best athlete in the world. Look, he's making millions of dollars doing endorsements. Everything's great. Close the doors like, oh, wow, I just don't feel I'm good enough. We just have to admit it. Always great talking with you, and look forward next time we talk. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Have a great weekend.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.